a few months. So I'm excited. You're my first
back. Oh, God, you're starting with Delta.
Okay, it looks like we
like being number one.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my God, it was planned. It was planned. All right, we actually are live, and folks can hear and see us. And so, let me say welcome back to everyone to our LinkedIn Live series. And I think it's been a minute since we've been out here, and I hope everyone had a wonderful summer and is ready to get back into it. I know that I am. We are introducing a new series that I'm super, super excited about, and it's called the New C-Suite. So you are familiar with the Chief Executive Officer, the CEO, the Chief Operating Officer, the COO, the Chief Talent Officer, or Chief People Officer, the CFO, of course. But there is an evolution, a revolution that is taking place. And as Allison and I discussed, things like this just don't happen out of the blue. People make it happen. But I want to talk about what the new C-suite looks like, and these new positions and these new roles that are really rooted in something material and something relevant, and in many cases are things that we are creating for ourselves. And so with that, I couldn't be more excited to introduce Allison Ausband, who is the Chief Customer Experience Officer for Delta Airlines. So Allison, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be with you, Lisa.
Now, you started, again, we always say this, we really should have taped our green room and then just put that out for everybody to listen to, because it was exciting and fun. And as usual, I learned a lot. But one of the things that I was most intrigued by is for the period of time that you've been at Delta, but you started as a flight attendant. Talk about your experience as a flight attendant, how long you did that, and then your trajectory and how you got to where you are.
Yeah, I think I started 38 years ago, so it's a long time, but I started as a flight attendant with Delta. And, it was I actually got turned down the first time I applied for Delta, and I said, okay, I will fix them. I will apply again. And it was interesting because at the time I applied at Delta, we really didn't do a lot of promoting. All the promotions were from within the company. So you started out in one of our frontline positions. And I love Delta. I love the brand. It was important to me to find a landing spot in my career that was aligned with my values, my work ethic. And it was Delta, and I was determined to be here. And so applied to be a flight attendant, got the position, and it was amazing, Lisa. You're in a 17.5-inch runway, that's that aisle on board that airplane, and it's humanity all around you. And and it's an incredible job.
Yes.
It's a hard job. It's a physical job. It's an emotional job, but it's an incredible job. And it's one of those positions where what you put into it, you get back threefold. And, as I think about where I sit today at Delta, again, I would start there all over again. And I learned a really valuable lesson. Probably I was 6 months into flying and working first class. And I'll never forget customer sitting at 4B, a female. And what I perceived to be one of the rudest individuals that I'd met so far flying. And putting my training hat on, I walked back into the galley and I said, Allison, what can you count backwards, go back out there and figure out how you, de-escalate and figure out how you can win this person over.
Yes.
And so I went back, and what I learned was we were carrying this mother's son below who had passed away. I will never forget that moment. It was a lesson in humanity. It was a lesson in what it means to serve others, to serve customers. And for me at Delta, it was just right there in my face that every day we carry on average 200 customers on a flight. They are all on a journey.
Yes. Yes.
This was this woman's worst day in her life. And had I not engaged in a way or taken a step back, to really try to figure out what was going on, I would have missed the opportunity to make it just a little bit better. And we've got that. We've got customers on an interview for Delta. We've got, people, happy times. I'm fortunate in that I get to talk to a lot of our frontline, our flight attendants, gate agents. And, really that's my message is every single person that walks on that airplane is on a journey and they want to be valued that day. It might be value me today because I'm going on that interview, or it might be value me today. It's the worst journey of my life. And what a responsibility, right? That we have, that we can make it just a little bit better. Along the way. So
that is, that hits me, and I'm sure others, in such a significant way. And the lesson that you just reminded us, didn't teach us, is you never know what's going on with someone.
No.
You never know where they are sitting, and you interact with them, and you can't make assumptions, but you took the time. I love when you said you counted to sort of like get your head straight. And the level of not just professionalism, but kindness and humanity that takes is so incredibly important. As you were talking to, I started to feel like your role in many cases is like the nurse in the hospital. The doctor and the pilot are flying the plane, but you connect with the flight attendant. You feel that you can have a conversation with you, that you are human, you can express concern, that you are protecting me while I am on this journey. And in many cases, you are helping me to be in a better place by the time I arrive. And so it's a really incredibly important role, which is why this chief customer service role is so critically important. What are you trying to achieve with that? And how did it come about?
Yeah, I think we actually didn't even have the role, Lisa, until a few months prior to the pandemic. And, I think as Ed Bastian, our CEO, looked across the Delta team, we had, everybody at Delta owns the customer experience, but we had silos, if you will, right, of customer activity in different groups across Delta. And he wanted to pull it all together so that we, have one area in the company that sees that end-to-end customer journey, and where are we winning for the customer, and where do we need to improve. So, and you can imagine, so that was a couple of months prior to the pandemic. Then the pandemic hit, and timing, and it was a whole new role. And at that time, because it was about every single day, 7:30 in the morning, our checklist of how do we need to take care of our customers and our people, and do everything at Delta right to make our people safe, our customers safe. But and so it was difficult, but I think at the same time, I'm a firm believer when bad things happen, there's always something really, really good that comes out of it.
Always.
And I know in my career, we would have never had a time where we literally could take a blank sheet of paper and modernize Delta along the way, as we built Delta back. So it's, it's a phenomenal position to be able to, just support our people, support our customers, and making sure that journey is as premium and as seamless as it can be.
What do you do on a day-to-day basis? Like, what are your day-to-day responsibilities? I'm intrigued by this because at some level, all of us that work with people should be doing this. All of us should have our customers and our clients like right in the middle of everything that we do. And so I'm just curious, on a day-to-day basis, what do you do?
Yeah. So first of all, it may help a little bit. I kind of, explain the role a little bit. So I have end-to-end customer experience. So we have an innovation team that is constantly looking at how do we innovate, customer experience at Delta. Whether that's things like digital ID, so you don't have to pull out your driver's license every time you fly, et cetera.
Right.
Have a customer experience design group that actually takes that end-to-end journey and, designs, right? What do we need to do across the ribbon? And then fortunate enough to own, or have responsibility for 56,000 of Delta's 80,000, which they deliver the customer experience. So all of our airport teams, our flight attendant group, our onboard product, as well as our reservations team. And they are the best in the industry. So I have to put that out there, bar none. We always say the airline industry is not for the faint of heart, but our people are amazing. And then I work really, really closely with our chief operations officer because he owns the day-to-day operation as well as our pilots and mechanics. And for us, customer experience, you cannot have a good customer experience without safety first.
Right.
So we are together constantly, day to day. But my day starts out every day. I get to work. I look at our customer dashboard, which is, all of our customers give us feedback through a survey.
Yes.
So every morning, that's my routine. What did our customers say about us yesterday? And how are we faring? And then I spend, I get a lot of customer feedback, which I welcome. I get a lot of our frontline feedback, which I welcome. They're out there doing it every day. And so I spend a lot of time with our frontline as well as our customers, and then how really marshaling the team to figure out, what do we need to do to keep climbing in the experience?
So it feels ongoing, like constant, because the experience that you may have 4 days before the Thanksgiving holidays might feel dramatically different than people who are vacationing. What is the hardest part? What's the biggest challenge you face?
Carrying 550,000 customers a day who have 550,000 different wants and needs and preferences. And, but at the same time, I mean, who else gets to do that? And so at the same time, it's a challenge because you want that seamless experience for 550,000 people. Some are traveling for business, some are, traveling for leisure. But at the same time, it's just a tremendous opportunity too.
So what do you love most about it?
I love knowing that I love what we have the opportunity to do every day, which is serve humanity. And I love the fact I believe in our brand, but most importantly, I think I believe in our people. And it's just, we make mistakes at Delta. My goodness, we had a challenging summer, but just to be able to come in and write to be Delta to people in the world every day, we do it like none other. And it's pretty gratifying to watch the team work their magic.
So I just met you, though I have followed you and I know a bit about you. And I think one of the things that struck me most is that you are an inherently positive person. But even for the most positive people, the past 2.5 years have been challenging. I mean, it has just been, there's been a lot, our world has changed from any wide array of things. You started this, timing is everything before the pandemic, but the racial reckoning that our country is going through, the economy, the challenges, climate, all of these things. So how has, from where you started to now, how has the customer experience changed at Delta, especially over the past 2.5 years?
Yeah, certainly the past 2.5 years were just for everybody, right? We're really, really challenging on multiple fronts, right? For everybody. But I think for me, having been here for 38 years, what has been motivating is we're no longer focused on where we sit in the industry, but it's about how do we become this admired, respected brand.
Yeah.
And so, that being able to modernize Delta and keep climbing coming out of the pandemic honestly kept me going. Outside of our people, it kept me going every day. And I think we were able throughout the pandemic, just the digital transformation of Delta, right? Enabling, more and more customers to do self-service when they couldn't get through to us. And, I think also there hasn't been an airport built in the United States. The last one was 30 years ago. It was Denver. And we got to, right? We accelerated LaGuardia, LA. So all of that, right, to be able to do that for our customers over and accelerate it throughout the pandemic has been amazing. And then certainly on the product side, but I would say so all of those, right, the innovation, it's just been incredible to watch, particularly coming out of the, pandemic. But the one thing to me that has not changed is in my 38 years is the people and the loyalty of our people, the grit that they have.
Yes.
We've been through a lot, the perseverance. It's who we are, and our culture has not changed. It might look a little different than it did day one for me.
Yes.
But it's the same tried and true Delta that I started with, which is what has kept me here, honestly.
Yes. One of the things that you all have also done that I love is, in addition to really getting underneath what the customer is looking for, in addition to understanding the humanity of that and making us all feel safe and welcome and wanted when we are traveling and on whatever journey we are on, you also are very clearly aware of things that are happening in the world. And Delta has taken the lead on some really important topics, including human trafficking. Talk about that. And I can't help but tease you and say that when we talked about this in the green room, your whole body changed when you talked about not only the work that your employer is doing, but how it has personally affected you. If you don't mind, talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I think I love a lot about Delta, but what I love about Delta is we're a big company, but we're about giving back to the communities that we serve all over the world. And, I think that the trafficking, horrific, human trafficking is a way that Delta can give back. And, I got into the space. I literally went to a lunch and learn at Delta, and I didn't know anything about human trafficking and what it was, what does it mean? And it was shortly thereafter, my husband got a call on a Friday night from one of his employees that his daughter was walking through the neighborhood to go spend the night, and she got taken. And, to hear the mother's voice on the other end of the phone and to know what I knew, which was very little, but thanks to Delta, I knew it. I wouldn't have known who to call. I wouldn't have known if there were resources. And, and I watched this mother all throughout the week, right? What was going on. And thankfully, her 13-year-old, right, was found, and safe, but it was 5 days later, and she had to move away. This was in the Atlanta area, and she had to move away because she just could not to live with her grandparents because she couldn't, right, just function and feel safe here. And so that propelled me just to dive deeper. And certainly Ed was passionate about it, or is passionate about it as well, and charged and challenged Delta. How can we get closer to the victims? And, then I learned that 70% of those who are being recruited to trafficking fly on an airplane. So
yes,
what better opportunity, right, to train all the Delta team. Our entire Delta team is trained on the signs of trafficking. And so that opportunity, right, to be those eyes and ears for victims. And one of the things that two things I'm most proud about. We also give the opportunity for our customers to get in the fight with Delta.
Yes.
So our customers can give Sky Miles, and we match it to help victims when they are freed from their perpetrator, moving from one state to the next. We've given over 150 tickets to survivors to get back home. And the second thing is, I've learned it's just trying to come out and live a life that you can be proud of it's one of the most horrific, toughest journeys of anybody I know. And, so we wanted to offer apprenticeships for survivors to get them back and help in their rehabilitation. And Lisa, it was, and the Delta team doesn't know the background of these apprenticeships, but the one in particular said, do you mind going to lunch one day? And so I'm in Delta's headquarters sitting in in our cafeteria, and she starts to tell me her story. And she was 7 years old when her mother first started selling her for drugs. And she had 3 different owners, if you will, and didn't get out of trafficking until her late 20s. And to sit there and look at this young woman who could have been my child, one of my children, you're counting on somebody that you think loves you and wants to care for you, and she doesn't know what love means. She's had drugs, all these things, right, to keep her in this space. And now she's out trying to, how do you build a resume when you've been trafficked from 7 to, your 20s? And if Delta can play a small part in that, we want to do that. So it's, and thankfully I keep up with this survivor. She was here 3 years ago, and I still keep up with her, and it's tough. It's tough going, but she's one of the most courageous women that I will absolutely ever meet.
That's hard to follow up to. One of my questions, though, you naturally answered, and that is, you all talk about something called the Delta difference. And for me, as somebody who pays attention to brands and someone whose company or enterprise and me personally look at what is the role of business in terms of tackling the problems in society while also being profitable, because you are a business. And that example of Delta's recognition of a problem, how your vehicles are used, and not only from an enterprise standpoint, but from an individual standpoint, the type of people who care enough to do something and not just talk about it, but to actually do something. So that's my definition of the Delta difference. But you can tell me what yours is.
Thank you. You got it right. But our founder, C.E. Woolman, said, this is a quote that I resonate with every day. But he said, we'll never have a monopoly. Every airline out there can buy the same seat. It can buy the same, A321. But outside of safety, they can never, ever have the same people that Delta has. They can, they will never be able to compete with us on our people. And I see that playing in action every day with our teams, and they are loyal to whatever hill we have to climb. They are there. I said it earlier, and I describe our culture as gritty, but I think we've got grit. We muscle up and we do what we have to do. And again, it plays out every day with our people. This, human trafficking we have lunch and learns today, and 1,000 people will show up on their lunch hour to learn. You've got flight attendants out there every day. They'll run across an individual whose birthday it is on board the airplane, and they make a Biscoff cookie cake. Our mechanics will shoot through hoops to get somebody's iPhone out of that Delta One seat. But it's, and you can't teach that. I mean, it's our culture, but it's also types of individuals we're looking for in our hiring that have that empathy, that have that love for humanity.
So we should replicate this for every industry. And I think we would be a better world if every industry, not just in yours, but across the board. And so I'm just curious, because you clearly have taken customer experience and customer care to the nth degree. What other industries do you think could benefit from something like this? I mean, I don't get me started. I could do a list, but just give me three, like off the top of your head, as a consumer and as a customer. Like, what other industries do you really think should prioritize this role?
Yeah, that's it's hard to come up. I'm not going to come up with exact examples here on the spot, but I think. Right. I don't think every business needs it, but if you have a brand that has a defined customer base, you need a chief customer experience officer, because it brings, particularly when you're in an operation, 365, 24/7. It just brings focus to the customer, because there are a lot of things, that companies can do. But it helps really zero in on the customers why we're all here today. And it helps with that prioritization. And, I know we all are consumers of brands, and, for those brands that we purchase a lot from, we just want to know we matter. And that we're valued. And when things go wrong, we really want to know that we matter and we're valued. And, I think that's the hallmark of Delta. But I think being able to have this chief customer experience officer, to make sure our people have everything they need to make sure that customer feels that they matter, that our employees feel like they matter, and therefore our customers are going to feel it too. So
yes, it's obviously the right thing to do, but it's good for business, because when I have an experience like that, and you all are for me, you become a preferred carrier. It's like, I expect that experience, and I feel confident that regardless of where I am in the world, I will get that with Delta. And so it's obviously the right thing to do, but it's a very good, smart business thing to do. I have two quick questions. We have 2 minutes, so you have 1 minute for each of these questions. One, because I'm intrigued by my new series, like the new C-suite. What if you could create another C-suite position, what would it be?
Oh, let me think. Well, I think. Well, first of all, I think for us, a new C-suite position that we started throughout the pandemic was the chief health officer. We're the only airline in the world that has one. When you think about the pandemic, but when you think about, more importantly, wellness and well-being, to be able to have a chief health officer who has a whole wellness team, to care for our people coming out of the pandemic, to care for our customers, and how do we show up, in that experience from the well-being side. I think that is absolutely an opportunity for companies, and that's never going to go away, The effects of the pandemic are going to be around for a long time, and we want our employees to feel, and customers, to whether it's financial wellness, whether it's mental wellness, all of those things, And then the other one, I think, I laugh at this one, but the chief data officer, our biggest opportunity at Delta, it goes really kind of back to what we just talked about, but it's personalization.
Yes.
And, the more people that can become members of Delta, the more we get to know them. We know what matters to them.
Yes.
We can personalize the experience. And, our challenge right now is we've got a lot of data, that customers have shared with us, but how do we organize that in a way, right, that our people who need to know it at the time they need to know it, can recognize our customers and personalize the experience. So,
you sort of answered my last question, but I'm going to answer it for you. And that is, how do you get to be where you are? And it is clear that you are direct, you are honest, you put people first. I love how you are interchangeable when you talk about employees and customers. You recognize that those are two incredibly important and equally important audiences, because you can't have one without the other. And so we try to make these experiences, these LinkedIn Lives, where people feel inspired, where they learn something, and they have a better direction on how they might get to a good place. And I think just by the data that you shared and your perspective has achieved all of those goals. So thank you very, very much. I can't wait to see you the next time I'm in Atlanta. And you all, it's a great experience. You all are great partners, and I'm so happy that you spent this afternoon with me.
Well, thank you so much for inviting us to participate. So it's nice to meet you, and I look forward to seeing you in Atlanta. So
we'll have fun. All right, take care.
Delta, no less.
Yeah.
Take care.
You too, dear.